He was arguably the most famous person on the planet. A filmmaker who had total control over every single frame of his work. A comedian who could make the entire world laugh without ever saying a single word. But he was also a rebel, an exile, and honestly one of the most controversial figures of the 20th century. This is the incredible story of Charlie Chaplin.
Okay, picture this. It's 1972. A frail, clearly emotional Charlie Chaplin is standing on the stage at the Academy Awards. It's the first time he's been back in America in 2 decades. And the audience? They give him a 12-minute standing ovation, the longest in the history of the Oscars. It was this huge moment of forgiveness, a really powerful acknowledgement of his genius.
But that incredible homecoming just begs a massive question, right? Why was Hollywood's greatest icon exiled from the very country that made him a global star? Well, to figure that out, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. Okay, let's dive into this.
Chaplin's journey is, and I'm not exaggerating, maybe the most dramatic rags-to-riches story you'll ever hear. His life started in the absolute darkest corners of Victorian London.
He was born to music hall entertainers, but his childhood was a complete nightmare. His father was gone and died from alcoholism. His mother, Hannah, she struggled with severe mental illness and was eventually put in an asylum. This left young Charlie and his brother Sidney completely broke, getting shuffled in and out of London's awful workhouses for the poor.
And yet, listen to how he describes it. This ability to find some kind of grace, even a little bit of defiance when facing constant struggle, that would become the absolute heart of his art. He wasn't just surviving his trauma, he was literally transforming it into comedy. His rise was just unbelievably fast. He came to America with a touring theater group, and in just 4 years, he went from being a total unknown to an international superstar. By 1916, when he was only 26 years old, his new contract made him one of the highest-paid people on the entire planet. It's just wild. The key to this massive explosion in popularity was, of course, a character he basically threw together at the last minute for his second movie, the Little Tramp. A figure who would become instantly recognizable in every single corner of the globe. Now, what's so fascinating here is just how intentional this was. The contradictions in the costume, they perfectly mirrored the character himself. Here was this dignified gentleman who was trapped in the body of a poor vagrant. He was clumsy but also graceful, sad but always hopeful. The tramp was just born, fully formed from this idea.
So this meteoric rise gave him an incredible amount of power, and as his fame got bigger and bigger, so did his ambition. See, Chaplin wasn't happy just being a star, he wanted total control. So, in 1919, he did something that was just unheard of. He got together with other huge stars like Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks to create their own studio, United Artists. This gave him something nobody else had, complete artistic and financial freedom. He became the ultimate filmmaker, personally writing, directing, producing, editing, starring in, and even composing the music for his films. The whole shebang.
And he used that freedom to rebel. When the rest of Hollywood was rushing to adopt sound films, the talkies, in the late 1920s, Chaplin just refused. He was convinced that dialogue would destroy the universal art of pantomime and would limit the tramp's appeal around the world. So while everyone else was talking, he defiantly made 2 of his greatest silent films, City Lights and Modern Times. And look, this wasn't just him being stubborn or old-fashioned. It was a fierce, passionate defense of his art form. He knew what he did best, and he truly believed in its power to connect with people on a level that went way beyond language. He was protecting his art.
But here's the thing. While Chaplin was conquering the world on screen, his life off-screen and his increasingly political voice were setting the stage for a pretty dramatic fall from grace in America.
In the 1940s, everything just came to a head. The political mood of the Cold War was incredibly paranoid. Chaplin's sympathies for the Soviet Union during the war and his public criticism of government committees made him a target. Then, you add in a bunch of personal scandals, messy divorces, marrying teenagers, and a huge paternity suit that the FBI basically used to trash his reputation. It was a perfect storm.
The final blow came in 1952. He and his family were on a ship to London for the premiere of his film Limelight, and the U.S. government announced that his re-entry permit was canceled. If he wanted to come back, he would have to be investigated for his political beliefs and his moral character.
Chaplin refused. He put out a press release saying he wouldn't even try to come back, blaming a hate-beleaguered atmosphere of lies. He gave up his permit and moved his family to Switzerland, and that began an exile from America that lasted for 20 long years.
So how did this exiled figure end up back on that Oscar stage, being celebrated like a hero? Well, the answer is in the undeniable power of his work, which, in the end, outlasted all the politics and scandals of his time.
You know, time was on Chaplin's side. As the political paranoia in America started to fade, people began to look at his films again, and what they saw was pure genius. He had pioneered this whole new kind of movie, one that blended hilarious slapstick comedy with real, heartbreaking emotion, what we call pathos, and sharp social commentary. The Tramp wasn't just funny, he was a symbol for every underdog fighting against an unfair world.
And this quote right here, this brilliantly explains his whole philosophy. Chaplin understood that comedy wasn't about escaping from pain, it was a way of confronting it. For him, laughter was an act of defiance. It was a way to stare into the abyss of hardship and just refuse to be broken by it.
So, what can we learn from his absolutely incredible life? Well, first, to fight for your artistic vision. Second, to find strength and maybe even inspiration in hard times. Third, to use your voice, or in his case, your silence, to say something that matters about the world. And maybe most important of all, to connect with our shared humanity.
Chaplin's story is really a testament to the idea that true art can overcome politics, scandal, and even time itself. And it leaves us with one final thought. In our own chaotic times, who are the artists showing us how to laugh in the face of helplessness? And whose stories of resilience do you think will still be told 100 years from now?